Hello beautiful people, welcome back to another video. So a few weeks ago on Instagram, I put a little box asking you guys if you had a one-on-one with a personal trainer, what are the main topics you would like to talk about? What are the main questions you would have? And one of the things that came up the most often, and I am so glad that it did because I love this question, is how can I put on muscle if I am a beginner? Or how do I build muscle if I haven't been training for very long? Or even what mistakes am I making that is not allowing me to put on muscle because I have been training for X amount of time. So I was pumped when I saw those questions. Building muscle is such a great goal to have. I think everyone should focus on resistance training and not necessarily building muscle for size always, but for strength and functionality, and making sure that if you have any imbalances, you're working on those and you're just making your body as stable and strong and as functional as possible. So today we are going to be tackling how to build muscle if you're a beginner to intermediate lifter. All right, so we had to change positions a little bit because I was getting blinded. So before we get into the how, I want to talk just a little bit more about the why, because I want people who have never really thought about wanting to put muscle mass on. I want to inspire all of you guys to want to work on resistance training and to want to build muscle and maintain or build strength, because it's honestly just so good for you, so good for your body in so many different ways. Whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, it's never too late to start, and it is always, always, always going to better your life in one way or another. So number one, when it comes to benefits of having muscle mass, as a physical therapist, I have to tackle this one. Your joints will thank you so much if you work on making your muscles stronger. The stronger we are, the less shock there's going to be on our joints where we're doing different activities, and the less that our joints are going to have to work to keep us stable because our muscles are there. On the same line of thought as joint health, we also have bone health. So the more that you do resistance training and the more that you push your muscles, that is also going to push your bones to continue to produce new bone and continue to keep your bones strong. And this is especially important as we age, and even more so for women because of menopause. We lose bone mineral density and our bones become more frail, and we become more at risk for fractures as we get older. So continuing to have resistance training in your life, even as you get older, even if you don't think you're ever going to play sports again, even if you're not particularly active, having some resistance training is going to keep your bones healthier for longer. Moving on, it's also super important for our metabolism. So muscle requires more energy for day-to-day activities than fat or any other tissues does. So not only are you going to be burning more calories throughout the day, but also having a higher metabolism also comes along with usually having more energy, being in a better mood, and just overall feeling better throughout the day. And last but certainly not least, if you have more muscle, along with more muscle, you have more amino acids, which are the building blocks of muscles. I don't want to get too sciencey, but along with that also comes better immunity. Those amino acids lead to our immune system being stronger and more able to fight off little colds, flus, viruses, anything else that might be out there. All right, so now we're ready to get into the how. So first of all, the first thing that I want to talk about is your nutrition and what you are putting into your body. In order to be able to build muscle, you need to be eating more probably than you think you have to, especially if you're someone who's been trying for a while and you just can't seem to put on muscle. Then there is a high chance that maybe you're just not eating enough, and more specifically enough protein, and then also maybe potentially enough carbs. Protein is the building block for those muscles. So in order for your muscles to be able to continue to build new muscle and get bigger and stronger, they need to have protein. They need to have those amino acids that I mentioned earlier in order to be able to use those blocks to continue to build and to strengthen your muscles. So if you're not feeding yourself enough protein, and more specifically, if you're working hard and you're putting that training in and that time into breaking down those muscles in the gym, at home, however you do it. So if you're breaking those muscles up, but then you don't give them what they need in order to build back up, not only are you not going to be building muscle, but you might even actually be losing muscle, because once you break that muscle down, if your body does not have the protein that it needs to build it back up, it's actually going to either not build back up, or it can actually eat away at other protein inside of your body and eat away at muscles in order to try to rebuild itself back up. And I also mentioned carbs because carbs are our body's main energy source. So even if you're giving your body enough protein to be able to build that muscle, in order for your body to actually be able to put that together and do that, it needs the energy. So it needs those carbohydrates. So having carbs and protein enough in your diet for what you're doing, for your metabolism, for your size, your weight, etc., is really crucial to being able to build muscle. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about in the nutrition food category is just going to be hydration. Make sure that you hydrate yourself enough, because we've heard this a million times before, but our body is mainly made of water. So especially if you're sweating a lot and you're active and you're working out and you're not replenishing that, once again, if your body can't function optimally because it's missing a key element, water, then once again, it's gonna have a very hard time building up your muscle and anything else that you're breaking down while you're working out. So speaking of that, grab some water, have a couple sips, and let's get back into it. All right, so we cannot talk about building muscle without talking about the training part, obviously. So when it comes to building muscle, the number one type of training that has been shown to be the most efficient is hypertrophy training. When it comes to hypertrophy training, I'm going to be talking about 3 different variables that are going to make your program more efficient. Number one, we're going to have to talk about training intensity. You cannot push your body to build muscle if it doesn't have the stimulus for it. So what I mean is that your body needs to feel the need to build muscle in order to do so. Building muscle is taxing, it's energy consuming, and it's hard for your body. So in order for your body to actually get that message that, hey, let's build more muscle, it's because you have pushed it hard enough that it actually feels the need to protect itself by building more muscle. So that means that you have to be breaking down a large enough part of the muscle so that that muscle is going to send a signal to your body that's going to be like, hey, I need more fibers. Let's build more fibers. Let's make a larger, stronger muscle so that I can keep up with the stimulus that I'm getting from the training. So you have to be using weights that are challenging. You have to be using a weight that is 70 to 85% of the maximum that you're able to lift. So I'm going to use an easy example. Let's say you are squatting and the maximum that you can do for one repetition is 100 pounds. And that means that every time you're going to the gym, in your sets, the weights that you should be using are 70 to 85 pounds. Now, I understand that a lot of people don't know what their 1RM max is, which is fine. I personally don't know that either. It's tough to measure. It's challenging on the body and mentally. Another way that you can measure if you're working hard enough is after you're done with your set, like I mentioned, make sure that you have maybe 2 reps left in the tank that you could be doing with perfect form. And that's a good indicator that you're working hard enough. Never ever sacrifice your form for weights in order to increase your weight. It's a lot more important that you're doing it properly, that you feel the right muscles working, and that you're not going to injure yourself. After intensity, we have volume. So once again, this goes hand in hand with having to force your body to build more muscle. So that means that you have to be doing enough volume of whatever exercises you're choosing in order to be breaking down multiple fibers of the muscles you're using. So if you go to the gym and let's say you're doing a lower body day and you want to work your quads, hamstring, and glutes, if at the end of your workout for every single one of those muscle groups you've only done 3 sets, then odds are that's not going to be enough. If you're a beginner, then maybe 3 to 4 sets per muscle group might be enough. But if you're more at an intermediate level, I would make sure that you have at least 6 sets per each muscle group that you are doing. So let's say that you're doing an upper body day and you want to be growing your chest, but within that workout, you're only doing 1 chest exercise and you're only doing 3 sets of that exercise. Then that means at the end, you only have 3 sets for your chest muscle group. That might not be enough. So make sure that in that case that you either have multiple exercises that are targeting the same muscle group, or that if you only have that one, well then go hard on that one exercise and add 4 or 5 sets in there, maybe even more depending on your level. And last, we're going to be talking about exercise selection. So exercise selection is one of those areas where you have more space to be a bit more creative and to play around a little bit and to pick exercises that you feel comfortable doing, that you feel like you can perform with good form, like I mentioned earlier, that you actually enjoy doing, and that just overall you know that if they're in your program, you're going to do them well, and you're going to push yourself on them. So you have a good amount of freedom there. But the one thing that I really do want to talk about is the order of exercises. I have seen some weird workouts out there. The exercises that you pick are not always as important, but like I said, the order that you put them in is important. So first things first, you have to be thinking about your goal. So in this case, our goal is hypertrophy, it's muscle building. So we're going to be starting off with our heavier, more compound, more taxing movements. So that means if you have anything like a squat, a deadlift, if you're doing upper body bench press, pull-ups, things like that that are more challenging, more taxing, require more muscle groups, those are the ones that you want to be throwing in there first. Another important thing to consider is that you want to be doing free weights before you do machines. So don't start off with the leg press and then move on to heavy squats. You want to do also your most dangerous movements, which usually are free weights because there's less stability with free weights. So those are once again the ones that you want to do first, so you are fresh and you have all of the energy and all the strength that you need to do them properly. Another thing to consider is if you have single leg exercises, let's say in your leg day, which that's great, I definitely think you should, put them at the end of your workout, because once again, you don't want to start off tiring and isolating muscles in those single leg exercises before you actually do your heavier lifts. So to conclude a little bit on this and to summarize what I just said, number one, you want to start with free weights. You want to start with compound, challenging, multi-muscle group movements. That is the most important thing. Then afterwards, you can move on to other free weights, like maybe dumbbells, which are not necessarily as heavy, but they're still free weights. And then maybe cables, and at the end, do machines where you're actually sitting down and isolating one muscle group at a time. And lastly, I want to finish off by talking about consistency. This is one of the most important things when it comes to building muscle. It is a slow process, but it is a process that is absolutely worth it, and that if you stick to it, you will start to see it. It's going to be small steps at a time, but every one of those small little steps is going to feel so good, and it is going to give you such a boost of motivation and of confidence. And like I said, it is just absolutely worth it. So stick it out. And along with being consistent, it's also important to add progressive overload to that consistency. So being consistent doesn't only mean continuing to do it, but it also means continuing to progressively challenge yourself as you get better. Getting better is great, and feeling that weight lighter and lighter every time you go is amazing, but that means that you have to continue to increase that load and increase that volume and increase that challenge for your body so that it doesn't stop progressing. So how do you add progressive overload? My recommendation, whether you're a beginner or an intermediate, is that you get a program, whether you might be able to make that on your own or whether you get a professional to do it for you. That is your decision. But once you have that initial program, within that program, I usually recommend a 12-week program, 8 to 12 weeks, depending once again on where you are at in your fitness journey. So a personal trainer, a coach would better be able to personally help you with that. But usually 8 to 12 weeks is a good amount of time. So within that 8 to 12 weeks, I recommend not changing the exercises much, simply increasing the load every single time that it gets a little bit easier. So every time that you can add 1 or 2 reps consistently to every one of your sets, it's time to up the load a little bit. So that is one good way of looking at it within that 8 to 12 time frame. And then after every 8 to 12 months, it's good to reassess, think a little bit about your goals, see what has progressed a lot, what hasn't, and reevaluate what might need to change for you, your body, and just individually what might and might not be working for you. All right, so that is it for today's video. I hope it has been helpful. I hope that some of this information is going to help you. Once again, if you want more information, if you want more help, if you're looking for a personalized program made for you, or if you want some extra help for whatever needs you might have or whatever issues you might be having at the moment, don't hesitate to reach out. You can always find me on Instagram. I will put it right here. And otherwise, if you don't have Instagram, you can also leave me a comment down below and we can have a chat and see which other way we could communicate to help you as much as I can. Once again, thank you so much for watching. It means the world. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe because there's many more coming. Thank you and have a great day.